As you know, we are building
Powered by
outside there a
Riverside
bigger room
FM.
that one day, even in cold season, we don't have to squeeze in here, but to be over there. And the next step we are thinking about actually is the slab. And I was very happy when the other week I met some guy and I heard that he's an expert in slab stuff and whatever, and that he even had a company, who was very, very much just in these things, in all this concrete work. And he was even a leading company in his area. And then last year, he sold his company and he became to Zambia, become a missionary. And I met him and we talked about it. And he said, no, I have some ideas how we can do it and where you can put cables in the slab and whatever, this, that. And I was very happy. And I was very, very happy. And I thought, okay, there, at least now when rain season is over, we can do the next step. We can raise funds and whatever. We can think about how to do some things. And that's great. And then just the other day, I talked to a friend of mine here, Zambian friend, and he said, I know this missionary. And he's a very good guy and he's very skilled. But one thing you shall not forget, and the one thing you shall not forget, is that you have to check what he wants to do and if the same way is suitable here. And I thought, that's actually a very wise idea. So I thought about it already, but to double check it because maybe he's from the States, from the USA, and he's from the States, and maybe he knows a lot of things, but maybe he's using different machines. Maybe he's usually using a different type of material. So all of these things we have to adapt, of course. And it's straightforward. It's all of us we know. Okay, sure. When they're using this machine and this machine is not available, but we are using this machine, you have to adopt the same process. No question. Actually, it's straightforward. And I guess, and it's normal again. In one way or the other, we know that we have to adapt things when the environment is changing. That's that's nothing. There's no rocket science in it. That's very straightforward. And in some areas, it's very easy. For example, you shifted to Kwmawena, you're here, and wherever you were before, there was a proper market booth in front of your wall fence. And they sold very good vegetables and a high quality. And it was also always very easy. Just go out, go there to the small booth, to the small market, and buy the vegetables from there. They had a good quality, they had a good price, and okay, I don't have to make any distance. Why shall I go somewhere else? The quality is good, the prices are good. Why shall I go somewhere else? And now maybe you shifted and there's maybe still a booth in front of your wall fence in front of your house and they're still selling vegetables, but this quality, these prices there, no, it's better if I go somewhere else, where the prices are better, the quality are better, and we easily adapt, isn't it? We don't say, no, it was all the time like this. I always went to the same booth in front of my wall fence. Now the environment changed, I go still again. No one will do it. If they charge you more, you will go somewhere else. If the quality is not right, you will go somewhere else. Straightforward. You will adapt. Since the environment changed, you will adapt. Or maybe, you come from a more rural place. And you always bought your charcoal outside on the market and you knew what the price there was. And now you're shifting to Kwmawena and the prices here in Lusaka in the town in such an environment like here, maybe the charcoal is a bit more expensive. Especially since, the last year and all this inflation and whatever. And if you would say, no, I go with the same amount of money and the request for the same charcoal, it will not work out. You have to adjust. And we all know, and we are used to it. We are doing it, because what else can we do? We have to adjust. Or maybe, you stayed maybe in northern province and there was a lot of rain all the years, even last rain season, not this one, but the other one, too much rain. And now you knew, how to plant your field. It's something else there, it's very easy, maybe it's enough rain, whatever, and you can plant your maize and, the rain will come and whatever. And now you're here. And if you're a small portion of land maybe and you behave the same way, it will not work out. You have to adjust. Or maybe, for the ones who are maybe a bit older than myself, maybe 30, 40 years ago, rain season started proper in October. And it even went, proper rain season up to April. And you knew when to plant. You even could write it in your calendar because you knew, rain season is starting there. You can write in your calendar, you can plan, with your calendar when to plant. But now if you do the same thing today, your crops most likely will not grow. Since the environment changed, we have to adapt. In some areas, this is very easy. In some area, this is straightforward. We know we have to do it. We have to adapt since the environment changed. We have to do some things in different ways to get the same result in the end. Because if you just stick to the same way, it will not work out in the end. Not because the old way was bad. It was actually the right thing. But now, since things have changed, you have to find a new way to come to the same result. Because if you just stick to the old one, it will not work. And this change and adoption, as mentioned, is very clear in some areas. If you shift it and there's no good quality for vegetables in front of your house, you go somewhere else. If you shift it and the things are more expensive here, what can you do? You can complain, but you will not get the stuff. You have to adapt. If the rain is different now, is it because you shifted or because of the weather conditions, whatever, climate change? You have to adapt. It's very easy. But sometimes in other areas, it's not so easy. It's not so easy to see that things changed and we have to adapt. And in our sermon series, we are still in Moses, into the unknown. And into this way to the unknown, there's also something where Moses had to adapt and where it was not so easy for him. But I guess we can learn one or two things from him. If you have your Bibles with you, and I hope you do, I invite you to go to Exodus 17, the verses 1 to 7. Exodus 17, the verses 1 to 7. I will read from NLT, but whatever translation you have, feel comfortable. Even here it's NLT, but if you bring your ESV or whatever, go for it. Just the words are different, the meaning is the same. The Bible reads, at the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness, and we are there. Oh, I clicked twice. Thank you. At the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of Sin and moved from place to place. Eventually, they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there for the people to drink. So once more, the people complained against Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Be quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me, and why are you testing the Lord? But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? And then Moses cried out to the Lord, what should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me. And the Lord said to Moses, walk out in the front of the people, take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and call some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the rock, and as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked. And Moses named that place Massah, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, the Lord here with us or not. So what we see here is a very easy thing, now some thousand years later, What we see there in Exodus 17, 1 to 7 is that the Israelites were in the wilderness. And this is actually very much in the beginning, of their time, of their journeying into the wilderness. And there, the Israelites complained. They complained because they ran out of water. And Moses went to God and asked him, what shall I do? And God explained to him, take the staff, go to the rock, take the Israelites with you, hammer the rock, and water will come out. And what Moses did, he took the staff, he took the Israelites, he went to the rock, he hammered the rock, and water came out. So what we see, water was there, and we can even say, the result that water was there shows that God added Moses followed God. Because the water came, we see, okay, Moses did what God said. Because God said in the end, water will come out. And Moses did it, and water came out. So straightforward, Moses followed God. Very good. Very nice. But maybe you're asking yourself why we are jumping back to Exodus 2:17 when we were in Numbers already. I show you. Because we go to Numbers 20 now. And you can jump in your Bible to Numbers 20, to the verses 2 to 13. Now the same guys already for some times in the desert. They are also walking around still, and now something happened. There was no water for the people to drink at that place. So they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. And the people blamed Moses and said, "If only we had died in the Lord's presence with our brothers. Why have you brought a congregation of the Lord's people into the wilderness to die along with all our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? This land has no gain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates, and no water to drink." And Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord said to Moses, "You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock." So Moses did what he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. "Listen, you rebels," he shouted. "Must we bring you water from this rock?" And then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out, so the entire community and their livestock drank to fill. And this place, was known as the waters of Meribah, which means arguing, because there the people of Israel argued with the Lord, and there he demonstrated his holiness again. So again, very similar story, and in the end, water came out. So similar as I mentioned, the Israelites complied. Moses went to God. God explained, okay, take the staff, go to the rock, take the Israelites with you, speak to the rock, water will come out. And Moses took the staff, went to the rock, took the Israelites with him, hammered the rock, and water came out. So again, the result is water came out. There's water. And actually, God said, if you follow me, water will come out. And there was water in the end. And actually, there was not just a bit of water, but there was enough water so that the entire community and the whole livestock drank their fill. It was enough. So again, from what we see there, the result is that water came out and it was enough. But we just skipped one verse. We skipped verse 12. And in verse 12, it is written, "But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving them." Moses didn't do what he was supposed to do. He didn't trust enough. And because of this behavior has consequences. He is no longer allowed to fulfill the entire calling. His calling was to lead out the Israelites from Egypt and bring them into the promised land. But because he didn't trust them, his calling will not come to the end it's supposed to be, but it will come to a different end. Moses did not what God told him. Actually, Moses did what he was used to do. He hammered the rock. Because even last time, he hammered the rock. And he did the same thing again. And even the result, there's water, and there's water. It's the same thing. The result is the same. And even Moses did the same thing. We don't know actually why Moses did it. It could be that Moses thought, I know exactly how this situation is handled. I know exactly how the situation is handled. God tells me, go there, take the staff, take the guys with you, hammer the rock, water will come out, boom, okay, it will work like this. It worked already. I have this experience, and it was a good experience. And I'm just sticking to the same program again, and the same program will lead to the same result, and this will be good. God blessed it last time, and even the situation is more or less the same. We're still in the desert. Yes, we're at a different place, but we're still in the desert. And there's still a rock. And God is still saying the water will come out of the rock. So I know what to do. So let me just follow what it's needed to do. And when I just follow what's needed to do, I'm sure that I'm doing what God is commanding me. It's very easy. I know what is needed. Maybe even Moses said, I did it once. I will just follow the same track. It will work out. Maybe Moses thought, it was good what I did last time, so let's just stick to the same thing. Maybe Moses thought, I did it last time, I will do it again. Maybe Moses thought, I know what is needed. And maybe because of this, we don't know, Moses maybe didn't listen proper to God. Maybe he even listened to God, but in the end, he just did what he wanted to do. We don't know. But what we know is that he didn't follow the command of God, but he did his own thing. And at the first view, it's actually the same thing. You know, at the first view, it looks very much, okay, it's the same procedure, and okay, the result is even the same, so it's the same thing. The same blessing, the same water came out, or not the same water, but water came again out. And again, it was enough water for all of them. We heard maybe there were 2 million people or even more with all their livestock. It was enough water. We're giving even out water as a Baptist community church to the community, but we are not giving out water for 2 million people. This is maybe our borehole will be hammered one day. But it was enough. The blessing was there, at least at the first few. Even, people maybe started cheering at Moses and Aaron, said, guys, yes, thank you, you did the right thing. We are grateful. Our thirst is over. We can drink, we can refill everything we need. You're such a blessing. God is blessing you. You're following God, whatever. Maybe even all the people, cheer at them and say, yes, thank you. This is the leader, the God-focused leader we are needing. You're doing the right thing, whatever. Because for them, it looked like this as well. Maybe they even, you know, cheered at him because they were satisfied. They had exactly what they needed, what they requested for. And it looked like everything is right. But when you have a proper look, Moses didn't follow God's calling, God's command. Last time God said, hammer the rock, and he hammered the rock. And in Numbers, he said, talk to the rock. But Moses hammered the rock. And yes, both times, this is the result, what God said in the end. You did not trust me enough. And because of this, you will not lead them in the land I'm giving them. You did not trust me. You did what I commanded you last time, which was good last time, which was right last time. But this time, in this new environment, you didn't listen what I'm saying. And because of this, you didn't trust me. And because you didn't trust me, I have to take you out of what you are. This is sin, is what God is saying. Yes, the result was the same, but Moses didn't do what God commanded. And in the end, yes, there was maybe a blessing for the Israelites, but God made it very, very clear this was sin. You didn't do what I said because he thought maybe he knew what is required. We don't know if he thought like this, if he didn't listen, whatever. What we know is that he didn't follow God's command for this situation, but followed God's command for another situation where the same behavior he did this day was totally right. And the thing which came out was totally a blessing by God. And he did the right thing. But this time, he did the same thing like he did last time, but it was not following God's command. The only thing which changed was a bit of the environment, but God's command changed. And even, the result in the first way, the first few, there's water, looks like everything is fine. Even for outsiders, it looked everything is fine. But God said, no, it's not everything is fine. He said, even that you followed my command from last time, what was right last time, what you did last time, what was a blessing last time, is sin this time. Because this time I gave you a new command, I gave you a new task, and because of this, you have to adjust your behavior. If you want to say it like this, you have to adjust your behavior. Maybe not. Maybe you don't have to adjust. You just have to follow what I'm telling you. That's it. That's the only thing you shall do. As long as you're focusing on me, just keep doing it. But if you're focusing on what you think you know and what was right last time, and just because it was right last time, you're just doing the same thing today without asking me what you shall do, without following me what you shall do, that's actually sin and it will have consequences. So Moses didn't follow the instructions of God, but he followed what God instructed at another time, in another environment, in another situation. And following the thing what God said was right in another time, in another situation, with another surrounding, was not the right thing for doing today in this environment, in this situation. And there we're coming in again. What does this mean for us now? What does this mean for us? Of course, as mentioned, there are a lot of areas where we know we have to adapt. As mentioned, there's no way that when we're thinking about putting the slab outside there, that we just do what others did in the States and had a good, it knew everything. And we just do the same thing without looking at our environment. It's straightforward. We will not do this because it will not work out. And again, it's straightforward when we look at, buying vegetables at the booth in front of our house, just we did it somewhere else. We don't automatically do it here. It's straightforward. Or about farming. Maybe rain season is here different than in northern or southern province. So we are not doing just planting like we plant there. We have to adjust to the conditions. And even, the same thing like we said now, if rain season started 30 years ago, always in October and it always rained proper up to April, and it's not like this today. We know we have to adjust and we are not doubting about it. It's straightforward. But maybe there are other situations in our life. Maybe there's another situation in our life where, maybe God put us into a position in our workplace and it was right to be there. But maybe now things are changing. Maybe God is calling you out to go somewhere else, become a pastor, to serve him in other ways, to spend more time with him, to start your NGO, whatever. And now the same thing which was right for years, for decades, is no longer right for you, maybe because God is calling you to something else. Maybe it's not about your work. Maybe it's about your involvement in church. Maybe it was the right time to come to this church and observe this church and how things are happening in this church and be more window shopping and look at things. And maybe you were not so much involved in one ministry and it was right. But maybe God is challenging you to take up responsibilities here, to become an usher, a Sunday school teacher, to lead a service, to do this or that, to work in the background, whatever. And now if you just say, no, God told me half a year ago, no, it's fine for me now to window shop first. Doesn't mean the same thing is right today. Maybe it's time to adjust. Maybe it's time to become a part of the praise team, of a great praise team. Maybe it's time to, invest your knowledge about PA systems and whatever to help us to record. I don't know, wherever God is calling you. Maybe you say, no, I see this building site outside and say the weeds are overgrowing. Let me come and, uproot stuff. And it's great. Do it. But maybe this text is not just about you and me individually. Maybe this text is also for us as Christians in common. And maybe for us as church in common. Can it be that God gave instructions how to be church, how to commit services, how to commit programs, how to reach out to our people, how to invite people to church, how to conduct church services and programs? And can it be that from the beginning, God was looking at people and how they live and said always church has to adapt to the people they want to reach out to? And can it be that he gave us instructions how church shall look like, how church shall reach out to people around them, to their target group? And can it be that when Christianity came to Zambia 120 years ago and 100 years ago, people started looking at their surroundings, especially the Baptists. They came to the lumberland. They said, okay, let's observe the lumbers around us in lumberland and let's look how they stay, what is challenging them, how they live, how shaped them. And from there, 100 years ago in lumberland, which is today Copperbelt, they said, okay, because of this, churches have to look like this, services have to look like this. Because of this, our programs have to look like this. Because of this, we have to do one or two things in this way. And it was a great blessing. And water streamed out of the rock, and it was great. And even today, 120 years later, we have hundreds of churches in Zambia, Baptist churches in Zambia, maybe even thousands, and 10,000s of Baptists in Zambia because they looked at their environment and what was needed and, did it because God called them to do it. But can it be that us, Baptist Community Church, we are maybe in a different time, in a different environment? We are no longer in a pure lumberland. We are actually in Yansha region. And the people around us, maybe they're not so much in lumber, but here in Kwmawena, most of them are in English. And can it be that what people shape then is different what what is shaping people today? And especially when we look at why Baptist Community Church was planted and what the target group of this church is. The target group are young people who are not so well fitting in more traditional churches and people who don't know Jesus yet in this environment. This is our target group. And can it be that it's high time that we look again what is needed for them? What is shaping them? What was shaping them? What is their surrounding? What is shaping them in their daily life? What is shaping them in their workplace? What are they used to? And now, not changing the gospel, but like our forefathers did it 100 years ago, 120 years ago, they looked at the environment and thought about how can we connect the Bible, the gospel, to people in this environment. They didn't change the gospel, but they also didn't look like, when they were Scottish missionaries, they didn't look like how do we conduct their services in Scotland, and now we do the same thing. And they also didn't say, okay, now maybe in Southern Province there, when I'm not mistaken, the SDA was there in the beginning, I said, we are not looking what SDA is doing there and we're doing the same thing. No, they looked at their environment and the Bible and said, okay, let's conduct services, let's plant churches in this way. And can it be that we have the same task today? Not looking what others did somewhere or what others doing somewhere and what was a blessing somewhere at another time, at another environment, and even at the same time in the same environment, but with a different target group. Can it be that we are called to something else and that we have to adjust how we reach out to people today, to what shaped them and what God is calling us to do? We are called, we are here, we have all this infrastructure because our mother body said, we want to have a church in Kwmawena who is reaching out to English-speaker young people who don't fit so good in other more traditional churches. And we want to have a church which is reaching out to English-speaking people who don't know Jesus so much. And this is our target. This is why we are here. This is why we have a pastor and we have missionaries. That's the reason why we have a building which is not belonging to us. This is the reason why we have this huge plot which we can use. Because this was the task. And can it be that it's high time that we're not looking how we brought out water last time with hammering on the rock, what was right, what was the best thing Moses could ever do in Exodus 17. But now asking, what is the way to connect to people today? And maybe it's no longer hammering the rock, but maybe it's talking to the rock. Maybe it's doing dancing around the rock. I don't know. And the good part is I don't have to know it. We have to look to God and what He is telling us and how He wants to reach out to these people around us. And that's the task. Not because hammering the rock is bad, not because whoever hammered the rock was a sinner or whatever. No, it was good what Moses did in Exodus 17. But just doing the same thing in Numbers 20 led him to sin, and he did things wrong because he thought he knew exactly what is needed. And no one said what you did this time was wrong. No one said it was sin what you did this time. But this day he didn't follow what God was calling him. And again, can it be that for us as church, we have to stop looking what others were doing, what others are doing, what others are doing in different places, maybe in the same place, to reach out to different people, but that we have to look at what is our target and how God wants to reach out to them. And that's actually one of the reasons why you see the service is a bit different today. And if you're here for the first time, relax. What you saw today, it will be there for the next time, as well. But if you were here already for some weeks, you realize, there are some changes today. The changes will remain. Not to say the new changes, everything is nice and whatever. No, we have to adapt again and again. But in the same way, we have to adapt, in our church programs. Again and again, we have to look at them. Let's look how God appears. If He appears as a pillar of clouds right now, as a pillar of fire, let's see how He is here and how He wants to reach out to the people who are our target. Is it time to hammer the rock? Then let's hammer the rock. Is it time to speak to the rock? Then let's speak to the rock. If it's time to sit on the rock, then let's sit on the rock. But it's not us to decide if it's time to hammer, to talk, to sit, to dance, whatever. It's time to ask God how He wants to reach out to these people and to look what shaped them and how we can connect them to the gospel. Whatever it needs, let us stick on what God is saying, how God is appearing today to our target group, and what is needed to reach our target group today in this environment. And let us not stick on things others are doing on another place or to another target group, which is still very good and a blessing for them. But let's think what is needed today. Let's adapt again and again, not because this was wrong, not because doing it different is automatically right for us, but because we have to listen to God and follow Him. Let's stick to God's calling. And because of this, let's stay focused on God. Let's following God and how and what He is saying today to us in this environment, to our target group, which are young people, English speaking people who are not fitting so well into other more traditional churches, English speaking people who don't know Jesus. To them, we want to reach out. And imagine what could happen. More than 100 years ago, people started the same thing. People went to lumberland and observed the lumbers and checked what shaped them. What is their daily life? Where can we connect the gospel to them? How can we reach out to them? And they did it. And as mentioned today, we have thousands and 10,000s of churches in Zambia who are Baptist churches. And we have 10,000s and 100,000s of Baptists today. Why? Because they followed their calling. And imagine when we do the same thing today. We're observing what is needed, what is shaped these our people who are our target group, and ask God how we can connect the Bible to them. And maybe it's high time that we observe the people around us, especially to them